We're going to do a little what's more likely, and the first topic obviously deals with Jarrett Stidham. What's more likely as the Week 1 starter for the New England Patriots? Will it be Jarrett Stidham, or will it be third-time Patriot Brian Hoyer?
Well, I think this is an easy one. It's Jarrett Stidham all the way. Again, Mike, you've heard me say it for the last few weeks. I think you heard me say it towards the end of the football season. I know they hold Jarrett Stidham in high regard in New England. I think they see a lot of the same qualities they saw in Tom Brady as a young quarterback. They see them in Jarrett Stidham. Good leader, big arm, smart, loves football, professional all the time. I think he is their guy for at least this year. And, we'll see where it goes. But I think they're planning on him taking over the reins and being their guy for quite some time.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I think that the addition of Brian Hoyer is more about having an in-house mentor for Jarrett Stidham than anything else. And you can create the impression that Hoyer's competing for the starting job to push Jarrett Stidham so he doesn't get complacent and think he's been handed the reins. But I think Hoyer is there to support Stidham, to help get him ready, to be that veteran presence who knows the system inside and out that Jarrett Stidham otherwise wouldn't have. So I think that's going to help Stidham get even better. And Hoyer's always gotten rave reviews for being a great teammate. I feel bad for him. His ship never really actually came in the NFL. And every time he gets a chance to play, he ends up getting an injury, concussion, whatever. Remember, he was playing for the Browns and tore an ACL on a Thursday night. And it never really clicks for Brian Hoyer. So I think his best play is to be the support structure for Jarrett Stidham. And we'll see what they have in Stidham. They're going to find out. Maybe it's somebody else next year, but they're going to find out this year whether or not Stidham can be the guy.
They are. They're going to find out. You're right. I know we talked about yesterday, too. Stidham, if you went back and watched his junior year, you'd go, oh, he's a first-round pick. The team fell apart around him in Auburn, and we're in the day and age where when the team falls apart, we just blame the quarterback, even though he had, the worst pass protection on any quarterback I watched in the draft last year. But, you said all the right things with Hoyer. That's right. Stidham's the guy. Hoyer is a Class A backup. As far as he's got talent, so he can still make the offense go, but he's got no ego, and he will help Jarrett Stidham in the classroom, on the field. Just little nuances, things that Brian Hoyer's learned over the years about certain plays that even him and Tom Brady had talked about. So he'll be able to pass some of that knowledge on and be like a calm little, angel on Jarrett Stidham's shoulder there.
Next up, who's more likely to draft a quarterback in 2020, Washington or Carolina?
Well, I'm neither. I know we're supposed to pick one or the other, but when I don't like either choice, I'm saying neither. Okay, I just think that the Redskins right now, they got a full house, and you mentioned earlier in the show we don't know where Alex Smith stands in this conversation yet. So I think they would be silly to at least spend a high draft pick in Washington. You have Dwayne Haskins. You got a guy like Kyle Allen now, who I think is a really high-level backup quarterback in football. And Carolina, no, they're riding with Teddy Bridgewater until they see different, too. They invested money in him. They're going to see what he's got as they build their football team. And then a year, 2 years from now, or 2 years from now, when they can get on Teddy Bridgewater's contract, if they have to be and know he's not the guy, then they'll get back into the quarterback market. But I think right now these two teams are going to stand pat.
See, I think Carolina is more likely to do it because Matt Rule will have insights into the quarterbacks, some of the quarterbacks who are in the draft pool, because he will have seen them, he will have studied them. And when you look at it, they've got Teddy Bridgewater to be the starter for the next couple of years, P.J. Walker, the guy who's got the connection to Matt Rule, and then you bring in, it doesn't have to be first round, 5th, 6th, 7th rounder, a guy who's developmental.
Right.
There are some general managers who think every year you should be drafting a quarterback and develop him. And if you get lucky, maybe he becomes your starter. Maybe you flip him to another team to get something in return, like Carolina just did with Ryan Allen, undrafted, and they got a 5th-round pick out of him. So I think Matt Rule's going to, at some point in the draft, 5th, 6th, 7th round, he's going to see somebody there who's available, and he's going to say, I know that guy, I respect that guy. And when you consider that the opportunities to meet people this year, have the visits, that's gone. A lot of the stuff that you ordinarily would rely on to get to know prospects is out the window. Your pre-existing knowledge of a guy from your time at the college level. I think that makes Matt Rule, of all the coaches who are breaking in this year, and really of any of the coaches. He's in a unique position because he knows more about these college players than anybody else because he's the only guy out of 32 coaches who just came from that world.
Yeah, no, he does. He's got a great advantage. He's seen a lot of these guys in person, crossover film, so he will have a great feel for this class coming out in the draft, next year's class, even the year after that. He's going to have an inside look because he is going to see a lot of these guys since they were in high school, too, watching high school film with them, trying to figure out whether he wants to give them a scholarship to Baylor or Temple or wherever the hell else he was. But, late round picks, I wasn't really counting that as what we were talking about for this, Redskins or Panthers conversation. I could certainly see late round picks.
Well,
I know, but I was talking, come on.
Huh?
I mean, I wasn't going to bring up they might draft old Johnny in the 6th round. Oh, great. I understand that. And I understand what you're saying.
Who's more likely to draft a quarterback, Washington or Carolina? You have access to the same document I have access to, Mr. Coffee Mug.
I understand, but I just don't give a damn about us talking about drafting a quarterback in the 5th, 6th round, okay? That's all I'm saying.
All right. Next one, Washington quarterback Dwayne Haskins. This season, more likely to be benched for bad play or more likely to start for the entire year?
I'm going to go with more likely to start for the entire year. I am. I saw enough from Dwayne Haskins at the end of last season, and I think all the signals that Ron Rivera has been sending to Dwayne Haskins, which is, you better get on your P's and Q's and better be on your game and be a better professional. And I think we've all heard some of the stories from Dwayne Haskins that it was not tip-top for the most part of the year last year as far as dedication, all the things you want to see from a quarterback who's going to be the face of your franchise. I think he got a hold of that towards the end of the year to make them feel better. But between Ron Rivera's comments, Kyle Allen, coming into town, they're getting the poker out there just to stick it on to Dwayne Haskins to make sure he knows, hey, this is not going to be just a red carpet rollout to where, we drafted you in the 1st round and you're the man no matter what. No, they're going to make him earn it. Ron Rivera wants to send that message to his whole team that anybody's got to earn it. But I still think Dwayne Haskins will be the guy if you make me choose out of either of those two options.
See, I think he's more likely to be benched for bad play, not necessarily his own, but the team's bad play, because you get to the end of the year, you want to see what some of these other guys can do. You give Alex Smith a cup of coffee, let him get back out on the field. You put Kyle Allen out there and see what he can do. I just think it's more likely we see Dwayne Haskins get the hook at some point. With Bruce Arians and the Buccaneers, I allowed myself to think for a while that the messages coming from Arians were just aimed at something other than him telling the truth about how he feels. I'm starting to think with Ron Rivera, he's just telling the truth about how he feels. This isn't a guy he drafted. This isn't a guy he's worked with. And he is concerned based on what he saw last year, what he's picked up about whether or not Dwayne Haskins has that maturity to embrace the job and do everything he needs to do. And as we talked about earlier, the challenge is going to be even more pronounced this year by virtue of the fact that in the offseason, guys are going to be left to their own devices and they're going to be expected to get themselves ready without the benefit of being in a group, and that's going to make it harder for Haskins to prove to Ron Rivera he's got the requisite maturity. All right, which quarterback is more likely to make the final roster in Carolina? P.J. Walker, freshly signed from the XFL, or West Virginia great Will Grier, a 3rd-round pick in 2019?
All right, get your Kleenex out, okay? Because I know this is going to hurt you.
I don't care. Trust me.
I'm just joking.
I don't care.
I know. Yeah. I know you love West Virginia.
You can say it.
You're a West Virginia Mountaineer football fan, but yes, I think it's P.J. Walker. I mean, I just think he's more talented than Will Grier. The one thing we saw from P.J. Walker, hey, he can scramble around the pocket, extend plays. He's a pretty high-level thrower of the football, accurate. Can scramble and run when he does get outside of the pocket. Will Grier, hey, listen, I'm not rooting against the guy. I just don't see that type of talent as far as being able to compete with P.J. Walker on a day-in, day-out basis. So I go Walker, no doubt here.
Yeah, and Walker's got the edge. He knows Matt Rule. Look at what Matt Rule is doing with the quarterbacks he inherited. Cam Newton's going to be gone. Kyle Allen, who started 12 games last year, is gone. Will Grier, hey, sorry. Thanks for the memories. Thanks for losing those last 2 games to help us get the 7th overall pick. That was the plan when David Tepper suggested benching Kyle Allen and put Will Grier in. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I would have done. I've said it many times, and I'll continue to say it. Once you know you're not making it to the playoffs, evaluate your young players so you can lose as many games as you can and rise up the rankings. They got that 7th overall pick in part because Grier played those last 2 games. I agree with you. I think he's going to be gone. And I could see him get traded to a team that, liked him last year coming out, maybe not at the 3rd round level, but maybe, this is going to be the bookend to getting a 5th round pick for a guy they didn't draft at all in Kyle Allen. Maybe they get a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick for Will Grier and move on. All right, one more. With Travis Frederick now retired as the Cowboys center, what's more likely for Ezekiel Elliott this year? Leading the league in rushing or falling short of last year's output of 1,357 rushing yards?
I'm going to go falling short of last year's rushing of 1,357 yards. I mean, I don't think he's going to lead the league in rushing. I mean, that's my big point. I got to see a change in Ezekiel Elliott. He's still really good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sit here and go, oh, man. But I was disappointed, as you know, and we mentioned and we showed videos during the season last year. There was a whole lot of runs where he got tackled, and I went, ooh, there was a lot of meat left on that bone. A really top-flight running back would have made that guy miss and got 30 extra yards. So I'm not going to say he's a league leader. I don't think he's as talented as some of the Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb. Who else am I missing? Saquon Barkley. I was concerned with the physical look of Ezekiel Elliott last year. Lack of explosion, lack of long speed, didn't run people over with physicality like I had seen him. I really hope he's having a good offseason and kind of get himself back on track.
And I also think we need to take into account the Mike McCarthy offense. And I know they're sticking with the offense they had last year for now, but McCarthy's going to have fingerprints on it. And last year we saw the transition away from the run-first approach to more Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers in 2006. And the highest rushing total during that window of 06 through 2018 was Ryan Grant in 2009 with 1,253 yards. That's the most anyone ever ran for in the Green Bay offense with Mike McCarthy as the head coach. So I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to be under 1,357. I think we're going to see more passing. And I agree with you. Look, we fully supported Ezekiel Elliott doing what he had to do to get paid last year, but he hasn't been the same guy since then. You put those two things together, and I think there's reason to think he'll be south of 1,357.
I'm with you, and you make good points. We'll see. Mike McCarthy, I will say to this, I mean, he did have Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, which probably made him tilt towards the pass game a little bit more. But
well, he's got Dak Prescott. He's got Dak Prescott.
You're right. Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper and some other receivers to go along with it. And let's not forget this, Mike, too. I mean, when Mike McCarthy turns on the film of the 2019 Dallas Cowboys, he's going to look at the film and go, damn, this Tony Pollard kid, he's pretty good. We need to give him the ball more. And I think that'll take away from Ezekiel Elliott's stats as well.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.